What's going on, people? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm a currently serving police officer from the UK. I look at police related content on the internet, and today I'm going to be looking at officers getting into a scuffle with some travellers. Without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. Tell me what you guys think.
Looking for somewhere to stay or setting up camp on a playing field in the northwestern part of Burton.
Well, whenever it is the travelling community decide to come to the county, you will need to know the legislations of the law because they will challenge you, and if you don't know, then obviously you're going to catch a bit of a cold, and they can make you look a bit silly.
Oh my days, there's loads.
Just a bit of an update in relation to these itinerants. What it's looking like, there's probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 vehicles on the park.
This is going to be fun.
So for any of my American viewers who don't know who travellers are, effectively they are groups of travelling people in the UK, funnily enough. I'm trying to find a better way of saying it. Usually of Romanian or Irish descent. All the ones who I've met tend to be from those descent. They'll use what we call caravans, or what you might call camper vans, and they'll drive from place to place, and they'll live in a certain area for a certain amount of time, and then they'll move on to the next area. The issue what we get is sometimes local communities will have clashes with traveller communities because accusations will be thrown back and forth of litter being left in places from one side, and the other side will say, actually no, we're being discriminated against, these people are assuming we're going to be a certain way and they treat us unfairly. There'll be accusations of violence, they're attacking us or we're attacking them, and there'll be accusations of crime. Sometimes there'll be accusations that some young kids are throwing some bricks through these travellers' caravans, or it will be claims that the opposite is happening. So there can be a lot of friction between the locals and the traveller groups when they come into contact with each other. And 9 times out of 10, old Bill get called.
You're right. Well, mate, because there's the amount of vehicles you've got, I'm going to be issuing a Section 61 notice, which is going to give you 24 hours to go into it.
Because of the amount of vehicles?
Yeah.
12 vehicles are already on the field, and more are queuing up outside to get in. Backup is needed.
PC Richard Limer, Response Officer at Interceptors.
Rich has been in the police for 16 years and is one of a small team of coppers based in the market town of Uttoxeter.
So he's a response officer, but he's based in the local area, so he should know quite a lot about the local people, and hopefully he's got good relationships with people in the community, which may help in this situation. The issue what a lot of people have when it comes to certain traveller groups is that they assume that they're going to cause crime, but then also I think in this specific case is they've moved on to this field and they haven't really got the landowner's permission. So the police issue these notices to say, come on guys, you can't just move on here without anyone's consent, so you are going to have to move, and that's kind of how it is. So that can take place in public places or in private places, but we as police, we can't just tell people get up and go right now. We can't do that right now. So they're given a certain amount of hours to get their things together to try and find somewhere else to go. So it's meant to be quite fair. I haven't given out many of these notices before. Usually that gets passed on to neighbourhood teams during the day, and if it's during the night, usually we're too busy to go to stuff like this, if I'm honest. So only if it kicks off we'll end up being there, but I've never personally done one of these notices.
I would define my policing style as being quite a relaxed policing style. It's like anything. If you go with the flow, it's easier than to go against the flow.
As Rich arrives, he comes across a local blocking an entrance to the playing field.
All right.
The man's been threatened and doesn't want to be identified.
I'm going to move, like, because now I ain't moving, you're not going in here, because they want to back the caravans in to turn around to go round. And he says, well, if we back into your car, he says, and smash it, he says, we'll have to claim off your insurance.
You've got one caravan unhitched down the bottom end of the road.
So we've got a member of the public who's blocking a certain area with his vehicle to stop some of these travellers from getting inside on the field. Has he got a right to do that? Potentially yes, if he's just got his car parked on a public road. in a certain area. Potentially he does have a right to do that. However, don't put yourself in situations where you could be assaulted or hurt. Contact the police. I know we don't always get there fast enough. I know we don't always do what you guys want, but please, 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 I wouldn't want to see my dad putting himself in a situation where he could get assaulted. And also, you know, I don't want to see people in situations where they lose their heads and do something stupid, and then you've called the police on this person, then you end up getting arrested. So if you can avoid doing stuff like this, avoid it, man. Contact us.
Just bear with us. Yeah, just hang on there. Hello, so what's the plan then? Are you staying here?
3 or 4 days.
Right.
Get your cameras on.
The what, sorry?
Cameras on. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Go on, turn off the camera, come back.
Mate, I have to have the camera on for my reasons, that's all. So if I'm staying for 3 or 4 days, I won't speak to him and shut the door on me.
Alright, have we got all the details of all these vehicles?
So he said, staying 3 or 4 days. Boom, shuts the door on him. Turn the camera off and come back. If anyone tells you to turn their camera off, make sure that's on. Double check, make sure the light's flashing, make sure your camera's on. No, I'm not turning my camera off. Not a chance. No, not at all. Every group of people who I've dealt with who don't like the police. So let's say that traveller individual doesn't like the police. A lot of travellers we've met don't mind the police. A lot of them like the police. But let's say this individual person doesn't like the police. He could turn around and say anything about us when the camera's off. And in fact, how guilty does that make you look if you walk over to someone and as soon as you walk over, you flick your camera off? No, on the way, walking to them, turn your camera on, be transparent, be open, do your job properly. My camera's not going off, sorry.
Yeah, there's another one squeezing in.
The driveway to the field is forked. The local's car is on the gated slip road.
Gents, you're not going to get on. He's not going to open the gates, you're not going to get on here.
No, buddy, we weren't trying to get out.
No, I'm just saying you're not going to get on here. Go out a bit for us. Okay, because wherever you go tonight after 7 o'clock, you're just going to get issued another 61.
Why is that?
Because it's causing disturbance.
Tom and Steve issue the travellers with a Section 61, an order to leave the playing field.
I'll be gone within half an hour.
Very kind, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That resolves all the problem.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
The little one. Okay.
So they've just made a deal, shook hands. He says, look, I don't agree. Mr. Traveller Man says, look, I don't agree. However, I'll be gone within half an hour. Hands have been shook. Hopefully this individual person is a man of his word, because then things should be sorted.
They basically said most of them will be gone in the next half an hour, if not definitely by 7 o'clock. They've camped down on football pitches. School holidays, those pitches could have been paid for in advance for activities, etc. that have obviously had to be put off today because people haven't been able to access them properly.
The travellers are as good as their word and leave the playing fields before 7 p.m. But 10 miles down the road, they are parking up at historic Sudbury Hall, a National Trust site which has over 150,000...
So whoever the individual was who shook his hand, he's obviously tried to have the last laugh there. He said, you know what, I promise you, I'm a man of my word, we'll be gone from here, specifically here, this spot right here, in half an hour.
Visitors a year.
So it's not for us to determine if you can or can't come in here. We are basically telling you what the owners of this property want to.
Rich and 2 other officers have followed them to Sudbury. It's just over the border in Derbyshire, where the police force has been alerted.
Policing doesn't stop just because we've reached the county border. It moved on to Derbyshire and we needed to be there, provide reassurance to the public, so we stayed there and monitored the group as best we could, to be honest.
If I grab the whole of your beard, pulled you and shook you like that, would you nick me for that? Honestly now.
It depends, are you doing it in a playful sense?
Yeah.
And here we go, he's saying, what if I grabbed you by your beard and shook your beard in front of all these kids? I know it's probably just a bit of banter, but my issue with things like that is, especially when you're saying it around children, when you kind of tread in that line between banter and just being disrespectful. Now, hey, I'm a person who's all for jokes, and I wouldn't shout at him for that. I would let that slide. I would just continue joking backwards and forwards. The thing with kids is they don't know when to stop. So if you're around a group of adults, yeah, they know it's just banter. But a child, I'm not saying they're going to pull your beard off. I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but I'm trying to say, if you kind of set that kind of foundation of, oh, the police are nothing. You don't need to listen to the police. You don't need to listen to people in authority. Just listen to me, your old man, and you'll be fine. Kids won't be fine living like that. You live in a country where you need to listen to the police, the fire service, teachers at school. You need to listen to officials. You need to listen to the traffic wards. You need to listen to a lot of people. So when you set this kind of basis of the people, the police who are meant to keep you in line, you can just rip the piss out of them and not listen to them when you're a child. It can really have effects on their future. But let's see what happens.
Still won't be happy.
Well, come on, now,
Although they're now in the next county, Rich uses all his tact and diplomacy to defuse the situation until Derbyshire cops arrive.
Hey, he's a hard man. He had a good sense of humour now.
He's got a good beard, hasn't he?
He had the mind his beard. He had it all up there. He's a clever man. He's a good sense of humour.
But the body cams are upsetting some of the travellers.
Get bored of the camera now, yeah? Oh, the camera. Yeah, you're on camera. I don't care what camera you Buddy, just calm down. I am calm. Well, mate, just walk away from him. Just leave.
So there you go, Mr. Big Man in the Grey. I don't give a bleep about your camera. You bleep, 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 throwing insults. He's getting upset about the camera. Got no idea why. The same thing what people ask the police when we don't like to be recorded is when we've got cameras in our faces, we like to people like to turn around and say, hey, you guys must have something to hide. The difference between this and that is our cameras, literally, we will get fired if we show it to a member of the public. The amount of hilarious, ridiculous, incriminating, suspect, strange footage that I could have on my body cam, so that all these people who made complaints about me, if I release that onto YouTube, people are like, you know what, fair play, I respect the police now. The police put up with some nonsense. But I don't do it, and I can't do it, and I won't do it because it's my job. I've got a duty under the Data Protection Act to keep some data secure, to keep people's identity secure, and to not use that footage. So the reason I understand this individual saying he doesn't want to be recorded, but we're not going to be using your footage and put it on YouTube. On the contrary, it's members of the public who like to take instances of the police out of context and then put that on YouTube for some cheap views. We're not doing that. So I'm not sure if this person thinks that we're going to start spreading it around to try and make him look bad. And maybe that's why he's got a chip on his shoulder, but that's not what we're going to do.
Then. Only because I'm on my way back to... Stop recording us now, come on now. Mate, I have to, just to cover myself.
Bodycam for me is a brilliant tool because it allows me on the day of the travellers being there to capture the evidence of how they were behaving and capture what they were doing, to be able to demonstrate that if we needed to further down the line to show antisocial behaviour or criminal offences being committed.
Come on, mate, jump down, please. Boys, I've asked you.
The situation is getting worse as more caravans pull onto the site.
Mate, come off, mate.
Some of the young lads were being used to basically cause us problems, to get the gates open to allow vehicles onto the land, which does cause us an issue because irrespective.
So he said that they're basically using these kids to jump onto the gate, to keep the gates open so they could go onto the land. So using these kids as effectively as a tool, what situation does that put the police in? We see it all the time, right? We see... There was some footage that came out a while ago of a dad who was at a petrol station and he needs to be arrested because he's been drinking and he's been aggressive and he's been held at taser point. In the end, because the dad's been aggressive and refuses to comply and he's drunk and he's been drunk in control of a vehicle with his child in the back, everything's gone wrong. He gets tasered and forced to the ground. Everyone then turns on the police and says, how dare the police deploy a taser near to a child? It was nowhere near the child, it hit its intended target and that was it. And people said, oh, the police are in the wrong for doing this. All it would take is for one of these officers to pick up one of these children, put them onto the floor. The kid puts up a struggle, so he needs to be pushed back or held or anything. They would put a video out saying, police officers abuse traveller children. They grab them, they put them in headlocks, they're attacking them. And all of these adults would start jumping in and getting involved and feel quite justified in doing so. Maybe it would only take one or two of them to spread a lie. Two people who have told these kids to go in there, and then those same two people spread the lie that the police are abusing these children. And the rest of the travellers there, who are actually decent, normal people, hear that and think, hold on, they don't know the truth, but they assume what they're being told is true. Next thing you know, things go up like fireworks, everyone's fighting, and the police are being shown to be arseholes and horrible and child abusers, and the public don't get to see the full picture.
With their background, you don't want to go hands-on with an 8-year-old, 9-year-old boy and start throwing them off fences and doing whatever else to them, because you know that that's just going to incite further problems with the parents.
Lads, come on. Mate, calm down. Calm down.
You got little ones there. Tell me that. You can't. We're going to punch you there. Sorry, sit up. If you're going to push, I'm going to push you all side.
With things starting to get ugly, backup is needed now. Sergeant Tom Johnson is on his way.
So you got Big Boy in the baby blue shirt, grey jeans, and the flat cap, the white flat cap. He's trying to be the hard man. And then you've got his mate who's came over in what looks like the top of a shell suit, saying that he's going to punch an officer in the head. It's one of those ones. Would I have arrested him for that? He's made a threat. He's pointing at me. I might be thinking to myself, you know what? I think he might assault me right now. Could you lock him up to prevent a breach of the peace? Yes. Could you lock him up for a common assault if you thought, actually, right then and there, I thought he was going to assault me? Yes. There's a few things that you could have done. The best thing to do right now, when, number one, you're outnumbered. Number two, it's only going to make things worse. Even if the police weren't outnumbered, if they locked him up right then and there, it's going to make things 10 times worse. And I know this isn't what law-abiding members of the public want to hear, but this is what we deal with, man. This is a mixture of PC culture, lack of officers, and not being funny, the most vocal members of society, they want us to police like this. They want us to say, okay, you've just said you're going to punch me in the head, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to let it slide. And with the police, we have to reflect the public. And apparently this is what the public want. So I think they're probably doing what I probably would do in this situation. I'll be gritting my teeth and biting my lip, but I'll probably have to let that one slide on this occasion.
Because there's a large number of people that are there, such as with them being itinerant, there's just really potential for them to get overrun, get injured, get harmed. So from an officer safety point of view, it's going to be difficult. We need to get there just to make sure that's okay.
Look at you.
Rich blocks the entrance to stop anyone else from invading the car park.
Come on, we're trying onto the road. Come on.
But the travellers have other ideas.
So you've got that same guy in the pink t-shirt who was saying that he's going to pull the officer's beard, and it was all fun and games earlier. And it was, it wasn't disrespect, he was just having a bit of a joke. Now he's saying, okay, come on kids, I've just told you guys to jump on the fence and obstruct these officers. Let's tip over this police car. What are those kids going to grow up to be like if at age 8 they are obstructing police officers already? What were you guys doing at age 8? Were you obstructing the police? Were you threatening to push over police cars? Were you seeing people who you know, people who you look up to threaten to punch police officers in the head? Come on, that's what you got to consider, and that's the point I was making earlier. It all starts as a joke, and if the police officer said, you know what, nah, that's not funny, get away from me, you're not going to speak to me like that, when he said the beard comment, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, these police officers are arseholes. But I'm not lying to you guys, it might just be banter, but it's almost like it's the beginning of a very disrespectful attitude and a disrespectful conversation. You don't speak to people who you've got respect for or who you recognise the authority of and say things like that. It's not appropriate. And again, it leads to actions like this if it's not left and kept in check. So when you get a grumpy officer who's not going with the banter, it's probably not your fault. It's like this guy's fault. That sometimes we look at banter and think, are you giving us banter or are you being disrespectful?
They threaten to roll Rich's car. And it's all captured on Rich's body cam. When Tom arrives, there's a queue of travellers waiting to get onto the site.
There's loads of them.
202 LVs, whereabouts are you?
One of the travellers doesn't like the presence of the film crew.
Group your rear end. I don't care what these ones are. He's a sound guy. Deaden your teeth.
Right, there's one thing he just said to the sound guy. I don't care if he's a sound guy. Lifts up his foot and said, that in your teeth. Basically saying that he's going to be kicking the sound guy in his teeth. There's one thing saying comments like that to us. I get it. We need to be robust. We need to be resilient. We need to expect comments like this, apparently. But when you're saying that to a member of the public, that sound guy genuinely might be thinking, hold on a second, I'm surrounded by a police officer and this person can threaten me like that. This is when I would really start to fall out with people. It's just a massive amount of disrespect. You're surrounded by police officers and you're threatening members of the public. That's when I do start to fall out with individuals, if I'm honest. You can say things to me. I get called every name under the sun on a regular basis at work. Racist stuff, whatever people want to say, do you know what I mean? I don't mind, I love my chocolate skin. But when people start saying it to other people in my presence, it's just so disrespectful. It just really pisses me off.
All we want to do is park up for the night. We don't want any trouble from anybody. Everywhere we go, we're getting the exact same attitude. Don't park here, don't park there. We're sick of it. We came from...
Oh, hold on. This dude in the shell suit's talking about, I'm from Finney's Ditch. The police are always mean to us. We always get the same attitude everywhere. Hold on, mate. Rewind. About 5 seconds ago, you were threatening to punch a police officer in the head. You're not a victim. Come off it. You're actually being a disgrace. There's plenty of other travellers out there who don't act like you, and you're not a very good representation of them. The police are always persecuting us. 5 seconds before, I'll punch you in your head to a police officer. Behave yourself. Behave yourself.
From Fanny's Ditch, up beside Feet de Gal. That's where we came from, officer, beside Peterborough. Pack up for the night, we're gone again in the morning. Go with the Go with the camera now. Go and move that now. You wanted to talk to us. Move it!
Yeah, apologies if I've missed anything. Have Derbyshire got patrols en route at all? It's difficult, really. You know, I can understand they've got to go somewhere, but at the same time, it's other people's land, isn't it? These have got a business to run. They ain't going to be happy because a lot of their patrons or people that come to visit this place in the summer holidays are going to be put out, aren't they?
There's about 20 caravans on there already, so the fact that another 6 go on, for me, they can then issue the 61.
I would imagine Derbyshire Police will follow a similar procedure as to what we've done, looking at issuing the Section 61 notice and get them to move on. Before that, you need to give them a reasonable amount of time to move on. Obviously, as time goes on, they're going to make representation that it's getting late and they've got children to get to bed and everything along those lines. So it might be a case of living with that, letting them stay for the night and moving them on.
So as you just heard there, again, they're going to have to let them crack on. Effectively, they've won the battle again. Obviously, the police will win the war in the end. These guys will have to move eventually, whether it's that the council get involved or you get some guys with some riot shields coming down there, which isn't what anyone wants. We want to have a conversation as adults. But in the meanwhile, they've won. They got moved on from one place to another place. They got told to leave. Okay, mate, we'll go down the road. No, we'll wait here for 12 hours. And then tomorrow we'll wait there for 12 hours and we'll move on and on and on. And again, this is not a representation of the entire travelling community. This is just one or two buffoons who have been caught on this camera at the moment. But this is, you guys are going to have to tell me, is this the way that you expect the police to be policing the public? For me, the fact that they get to be threatening the camera staff, the fact that they get to be doing all of this disgraceful behaviour, and 9 times out of 10, in fact 99 times out of 100, all members of the public see is the police are harassing these people again. The police have done this, the police have done that. And this isn't specific to do with travellers, this is just all police related incidents. You only get to see one side of the story. And this is the reason why it's almost like we have to be a little bit careful and we have to tread on eggshells with our approach to situations like this. We want people to have confidence in the police, and we can't deal with the bad press. Me personally, I care about law and order. As soon as he threatened that individual officer, he should, if we're being fair, he should have been put in the back of a van and told, mate, you're going to keep your mouth shut or you're going to be coming down to the station. When he started threatening the camera staff and clearly making them feel intimidated to the point that they're flinching with their cameras, people need to start getting locked up for common assault. He's captured on camera, he can get charged. People need to, But again, members of the public, what do you want us to act like? Because if they start locking people up, that's going to be a public order situation and they're going to need right-trained officers in full gear down there. Or do you want us just to leave people who are actually breaking the law and they are being disrespectful? Should we just leave them to it to keep the peace? Thank you guys so much for watching today. I'll be back with another one soon. Peace.